G'day guys, Calvin here from the Coaching Company. Every now and then I help the odd person online, and I get a lot of requests for my help, and unfortunately I can't help everyone. It's just the way it is. I've got a business to run, so I focus on a lot of the vehicles in my shop. And I also am working towards a series of some basic knowledge videos. I'm time poor at the moment, so I looked at how I can benefit more people, or the most people, and some of that base knowledge of how, and in this case came up in a discussion of how ignition coil works, because I see so many people that overcomplicate their diagnosis because they don't know the basic shit. Okay, they just don't know it. They just fail to get it right, and then they just go round and round and round in circles, or the car sits for a long time, and that's not okay. So we are going to look at this particular problem. It's an LS400 1995 UCF 20 OBD2, of course non-VVTi, US market. And I often ask questions, and if people can give me clear, concise answers, then I move forward. If people can't answer questions properly, or don't take the time, if I've taken some time to help and they can't answer all the questions I ask, I just move on. I don't have time to deal with that. If someone is unhelpful with providing information when I'm taking my time to help them, as I said, I just move on. I don't have to help everyone. I'm fine with that now. Right, the question in this one is vehicle doesn't start. I could pull up some videos, but he has seen some videos. But when the car fails to start, there's no check engine light on the dash. There's no oil light, no charge light. It appears there might not be any power to the coils, nope, to the injectors. There does appear to be coil power to the ignition coils. Now, to me, this is real simple stuff. You get in and you do some testing. Okay? Diagrams help. And when you're learning, diagrams help. But the problem I also have when I do a lot of my videos, I just do stuff and I don't refer to the diagrams. So I'm trying to backtrack a little bit and teach people how to use diagrams, then put all the pieces of the puzzle together to solve problems. Okay, let's have a look here. So what we want to look at in this situation is, where do the voltages come from? Where does the power feeds for these items come from? And it'll all kind of click together. Right. Here, this is an ignition switch. We can see we've got the ACC circuit, and it's not included in the starting and ignition because you don't start it when it's on ignition. ACC doesn't matter. Okay. If there's weird stuff happening, like no radio, we might have a different idea of what we're going to look at, but we haven't got into that. And I'm not with the car, so I'm just providing some background here. Okay, we've got ignition 1, start 1, start 2, and ignition 2. Okay, you can see here we've got ST2, start 2, comes out of pin 8 on the ignition switch plug. So there's a plug somewhere near the ignition switch with 2, 7, 8, 6, and 4 are the ones we are relating to. If we had no voltage coming out of the ignition switch, we'd check the ignition coming in, AM1 and AM2, and then we could trace it back to where they go back to the fuses. So we've got start 2 on pin 8, and it comes out here. Looks like a red wire, and it comes to a starter fuse. It goes through these. Here is a terminal or a junction, okay, a plug. IG, pin 5, and it comes out on 1L on pin 11. We can just use our thought patterns, and that's possibly around a junction box or a fuse box. I don't need to check everything and know exact locations of everything. You can work it out when you're on the car. And you can see it comes down here as a black white, yep, comes to II1, which happens to be a big 26 pin plug beside the ECU I deal with them a lot. Okay, so we know that, and it's pin 15. Comes down here and into pin 6 of park neutral switch, park neutral position switch. Okay, and you can see these two switches, when it's in park or neutral, they are joined, and it comes down here, goes to the engine management, or it comes up here, goes to II1 pin 3, same plug. Okay, and it pops out here, combination meters, and goes through some other plugs and junctions to get to the starter relay. Okay, so you can see there's a lot of junctions, a lot of places where that start signal goes, but we can follow and trace it, and it kind of makes sense. We don't care about that one because it does crank over. And why does it crank over? But we're losing. Just got to push the arrows. The car cranks over. It's got a crank, no start. So it indicates right here that we're getting voltage on IM2. Voltage 2, but we can always check it. It's really easy to check it. Just cross it off the list. Okay. We've got ignition 2, and we come at a pin 6, and we come along here, and it's a black orange. Comes along here to pin 6 of plug 1G. Okay, same plug as that one, 1G. It branches off, so there's a joiner right there. Look, we've got a joiner in the box. Comes to an ignition fuse. Okay, and over here we come to II1, and it comes down to the ignition coils as a black orange. Okay, II1 comes out of that one. It comes out of pin 1L first. Okay, out of that plug, and then it comes to II1. Now I know again that's that 26 pin plug right by the ECU. Real easy to find. We've also got an ignition fuse. Comes down. There's a junction connector. There's the connector there. Comes down, and there's the charge warning light combination meter. It's the dash. Goes in through pin 14. Okay, so it doesn't always have a connector shown. It shows that the unit is a connector. So in this case, that plugs into the dash. That connector is plugging into the dash. They will also have, often, of course, you've got both sides. You've got the dash, and you've got the plug that plugs into the dash. So sometimes, this one. This is the plugging in one. That will actually have a number, name, designation, and then the dash is the other side. Okay. In this case, it's just said pin 14 of the dash. Okay, so we've got that. We know there's some stuff going elsewhere. Cool. We've got an ignition fuse. There's some connectors. Okay, cool. What have I got on this one? Oh, it's pretty much the same one, but we come down, we show, coming down here, we've got some more stuff going on. We've got another connector. We've got stuff going off to the air suspension. We've got stuff for the daytime running lights. Okay, so if you had a car that you were suspicious of the circuit not working, you could go, hey, look, I don't have air suspension in this car, but we've got daytime running lights. Do they work or not? Yes, they do. No, they don't. So it helps us diagnose where stuff's going. We also come down here to EC1, another connector, which comes down to the light wire, the L terminal on the alternator. Okay, so there's the alternator, so we can check down at the alternator whether we're getting voltage there because it's in the same circuit. Cool. Okay, what else comes off that? Let's have a look. I need to click there. So this one isn't showing anything else coming off, but we know we've got a junction connector. I've kind of tried to set this up. I pushed the wrong button, but oh, here's a dash. Cool. Right, what do we got? We've got, here's our charge light. So we just discussed that circuit, and that's out by itself. Okay. Now we go back. We said we had no check engine light, and we had no oil light. Okay, let's have a look. Here's our oil light. That's good. And I played this game before when I was looking for the check engine light. Here it is up here. Malfunction indicator light. It's here. There it goes off to the engine ECU. Okay, so that one there comes through here, down here, along here, and there's your power feed. There, white, black. Haven't traced that one yet. We've got this one here. Where's that oil light? There's the oil light there. And this one goes down. You can see there's your oil light. We can trace it down. Just wait, I have to push on it there. We've got EC1, so it goes through EC1 connector and engine oil pressure switch. And it grounds it. So we know that this side must be voltage and this side must be a ground. Okay. Boring stuff, I know, but this is how we diagnose. Okay. We follow the tree trace along here. We can see we've got an ABS light, won't illuminate. Seatbelt light, won't illuminate. Slip light, won't illuminate. Now the ABS light should self-check. Key on, should come on and go off. So we can, again, we can check that. We can plug in the seatbelt, see if that's working. And that allows us to check these circuits. We go up here. They are separate. They are on a separate, so the indicator lights are on a separate feed, which happens to drop down, which speed is on that one. So if we're losing the gear indicators, they're on a separate power feed, separate circuit, so we can look at those as well. We come along here. Am I on the right one? Yes, I am. There's got to be a power feed in here somewhere. Here it is. 1A, that's into the dash. We come up here, we've got a connector. 4B, 4E, pin 18, pin 5. 1F, and there's this 10 amp gauge fuse. I need to see where it comes from. And it comes back to ignition 1. The other one was on ignition 2. That's interesting, isn't it? And all this means nothing until we get out and start testing on the car. But if we understand the circuits, it helps us. Well, we also had that engine malfunction light, which comes off this circuit here, comes along here, comes here. Light is not this one, it's this one. So it's on the same circuit as the oil light. Okay, that makes more sense because I know that an engine check light outputs a ground. Things don't work, we go, okay, that doesn't work. I'm not going to delete this, I'm going to leave it in. I make mistakes too, but we find them, we check it, we double check stuff. So if we lose voltage to 1A, we will lose voltage from ignition 1. Okay, so that goes back to the ignition switch. Is this fuse box 1G? G. They both go through the same connector at that fuse box. Okay, so we've got some correlation of possible places where there could be an issue. Cool. ECU voltage. Now I was thinking that the lack of check engine light was because the ECU wasn't powering up. However, when the car fails to start, the dash doesn't work, engine start makes it start. It won't start without the ECU functioning. The ECU has to have power, it has to have voltage to it. And where does it get that voltage? Do I have it? What do we got here? Yeah, this looks good. So we've come down here. Here's 1L, that's an output, 1G. Ignition to pin 6 comes in. Now that's looks like the same. There's that junction box. So pin 6 of 1J. Pin 6 of 1J, and we've got a junction box. Wrong button, sorry guys. Junction box, ignition, fuse, pin 6, 1J. Junction box comes out, powers up the circuit opening relay. So that would drop fuel pump. Or we can check it at the circuit opening relay very, very quickly, because that's easy to find in that front fuse box. Cool. Awesome. That's easy. We've got this black orange comes out, comes along here. You're tracing it. Still on it. It hasn't moved. Oh. We've got to come down here. This is a bit of a pain on these diagrams. And it takes a bit to find it at times. There it is there. Black orange comes along here, goes to IGSW of the ECU. Gives us our points also where we can test. And that's going to be on the B plug on pin 9. I know exactly where it is. That's bang. And I checked them real fast. I normally check the plus B supply as well. That goes back to up here. Really quick to check the EFI relay, circuit opening relay, real quick. But we've come back to the fact that so now we know if the ECU is getting voltage, okay, which is past here, and the circuit opening relay is getting voltage, cool. Could it be that junction that has failed? Now, where do those injectors get their power? Where do the injectors get their power? Let's find the injectors. Here's injectors here. Individual triggers. Sorry, hand away from the mouth, eh? Individual triggers. 95 sequential injection. Black orange. We come along here. LL1 pin 13. So we can test it at LL1 pin 13 really fast. Okay, so we could have a problem at LL1 pin 13. It actually comes out of a different connector in that front fuse box. Okay, so we can check there. We can very quickly check that junction, which possibly isn't going to be the fail, because this one, the ECU engine start fires up. So it checks out that 1J is probably okay. The interesting thing though is, of course, we lose both dash and power to the injectors. So again, it points more towards a connection in this place than this place here. But we can test that real quick. Does it have voltage or does it not have voltage? Pin the coils, pin the injectors. Simple. Now, alternator doesn't go out through that one. That was different. I've got to be careful because I work on so many different models. We have IG1 supply. There's the gauge one there. Okay, there's your gauge fuse, which is showing off IG1. So we've got two circuits in the ignition switch. They're separate circuits, and we've got voltage outside over here. So I'm in this area, which is around the front fuse box somewhere. Bad connection, damaged wire, damaged joiner, shit happening in there. It doesn't appear to be a relay problem. No ignition relay, so possibly not. But we can very quickly check that. And if we use the diagrams It saves shit loads of time than scratching your head and just going around in circles. You have to be confident with your testing, okay? Yes, it's got voltage. No, it doesn't. I'd just be using test lights into the LL1 plug, pin 13, and the one for the coils, 20? Don't know. Check both of those. Check power to the ECU because it's right there. Bang, bang, bang. Easy. Into the front fuse box. Check these connectors. Check where power's going. Check where it's not going. It intermittently does and doesn't start, which kind of points towards a bad connection somewhere. The old wiggle test of the fuse box. Get in there with it. See if it comes back. You know you're kind of possibly in the right place. Intermittent problems aren't always that easy. Now, I wonder, I haven't done this yet, but there's possibly diagrams for those plugs. Let's just see what I can find, eh? Oh, look. B plug is there. So when we're looking for B9, we can see that B9 is over there. It's kind of shitty in this case because that's actually looking at the front of the plug, not into the ECU, and I always look at it from the other side. But you can tell where, you know, you've got three wires there and 4 wires there, so you can soon see which side of the plug these are looking at, okay? We're probably going to have some connectors in here. I could be wrong. This is the overall wiring diagram from the factory service manual too. Should have said that earlier. Guys trying to solve stuff when they don't have the knowledge. Trying to find, you can download this stuff pretty easy. See, again, we've got suspension ECU. We've got the connectors. Multiplex. There's a lot of shit in these cars, even though they're older. There we go. Multiplex. There's some combination plugs. They normally have them right at the end. Now, why don't I share this stuff? These actual diagrams. I've purchased most of these. I get an online subscription to one of the sites. I just purchase it, like $30 US. And I have an agreement by doing so that we're not going to distribute it. So this one I didn't find the plugs. Sometimes they have a section which is all the plugs. And sometimes they have them like this within the diagrams, and it depends on where you find them, where you get them. I've actually got some of my own, and I do sell wiring instructions, okay, so that's a bit different, and I have that LL plug, body plug, the 26-pin plug, LL1 I think it's called. I have to check now, eh? LL1, I've got the pin out for that in my wiring instructions, so that's another reason why sometimes when I'm doing diagnosis, it's part of my stuff I sell. I've got to make a living, guys, at the end of the day. But in jobs like this, look at the diagrams, work through a good diagnosis. You'll find the answers way faster than guessing, or in most cases actually asking on pages on the internet, on Facebook, because it's a whole lot of guys that don't know leading a whole lot of other guys that don't know, and guess what, then it leads into AI, and AI doesn't know. I actually asked AI the other day if LS430s have an EGR valve, and I thought it was just my phone, so I've asked some friends, can you please do an AI check whether LS430s have EGR valves? It always said it did. They don't. So you can't trust AI, but you can trust these diagrams, and hopefully that's helpful for the man that's working on this problem. And if people do suddenly think that they can send me huge requests for helping everything, I can make a living, guys. And I don't actually, I'm not doing a whole lot of online consultations. Actually, funny as, I'll tell you what's real funny. I also have a subscription service. If you want to support me, actually, best thing you can do on a membership on YouTube. It costs like $4 New Zealand a month to support me. And if 1,000 people did that, I would pretty much, I'd almost be able to just make videos. That's the minimum I need to live on. I actually need a little bit more because YouTube do take a cut. But P1600, he changed several ECUs. Couldn't solve it. It wasn't the ECU. Clearly it wasn't the ECU, but he didn't know how to solve it or diagnose it on the car. I've got a video on my membership P1600 didn't want to give me $4, didn't want to book in and pay an hour with me. And it makes you really realize how valuable are the people in this day and age. For $4 New Zealand, it's like $2.50 US, and the answers are there, and I know it. Okay, yep, I'm being a little bit harsher these days, but back to this problem. Hope that helps. Do some diagnosis, do some checking, testing. We can get there. I may or may not be able to do an update because he's going to watch this, so we'll see if I put it out, he watches it, and then I can do an update. Talk to you again soon. Catch you later.